welcome to Art Scene. There's so much going on in the spring, and we're going to try to cram it all in for you so you know what's going on and you can get out there and enjoy your city. Josh Campbell is with me, the executive director of Spillit.
Hello, Ronna. Thank you, Pat.
Thanks for being here and sitting through. We had some issues, but we're ready now. What is Spillit?
Spillit is live storytelling told in front of an audience.
And this is where I said that's lying. Okay, so live storytelling. Big audience for that?
Well, it depends on the event. I think there is a large audience for storytelling, and the need for storytelling right now is really great. It's a great way to make a connection with people that live in your town and in your city. It goes beyond sort of acting and comedy and more as sort of a connection made between the storyteller and their audience.
That is traditionally how how humankind has learned their history. They passed it down in stories.
Yeah, and I think that that's just instinctual to us. To be storytellers and to listen to stories is something that comes really natural. And when people kind of feel that connection to the story, then it becomes something that we can all take from it and from.
Are we all natural storytellers? We're all natural liars, but are we all natural storytellers?
I believe that we are.
I think you're wrong.
Yeah, that's what the biggest lie that we tell ourselves is that that we don't have a story to tell. What we're really saying is that we don't think we have a story that anyone wants to listen to, and that's
Or that you want out there.
or there is sort of that maybe the stories you shouldn't tell, but yeah, I think everybody has a story.
But some people, I've heard people talking about maybe a night out or something, and you're like, get on with it. You're going down a tangent. What do you do for those kind of people?
Well, those types of people are the reason why we have a time limits at our events. So our first type of events that's most popular is our Spillage Slam event. It's an open mic event. Anybody can get up and put their name in a hat. You pick your name, and you got 7 minutes to tell a story. After 7 minutes, we start turning.
It's like a Tri-Wizard tournament, right?
Yeah.
It's a fire. Okay.
Yes, it's a deep Harry Potter cut there. I like that. But we give them 7 minutes. And as anybody watched the Oscars the other night, the music starts coming up and we try to kick you off the stage. So we don't want anyone to be like Adrian Brody. Hopefully that's not a dated reference by the time this comes out.
But no, I'm sure we'll all go on YouTube and watch it. So, do you help people with their stories ahead of time, or do you just throw them in there and they learn by fire?
Well, in our slams, no, I don't help. I don't want to get, it is a competition. And I don't want to give anybody a competitive edge with my help. But we do have other events called center stage events. And with our center stage events, we curate the stories. We partner with organizations that want to tell their stories. We get them and their stakeholders to come in and talk. And with those, we workshop the stories beforehand. So we let people know, okay, here's your story. This is the timeline that we are going to have. Let's try to stick the things in that you really want to be heard in the story. So the workshops can help people who are maybe not the best storytellers become the storytellers that they want to be.
So do they have to memorize stuff? Or they know their story, right? But do they have to memorize your tips to them, or?
Well, I would hope that they would take what I tell them. But we are no notes, no scripts. So when you get up and tell your story, you need to be doing it from the top. And the reason why for that is because, the notes and holding paper in front of you and stuff like that, it's a barrier between you and your audience.
It becomes a different story.
Yes. When you're reading something instead of telling something.
Yes.
The energy is completely different. And that is, you can go to an author's reading where they're reading from the book. And that's just different than going and listening to a storyteller tell their story.
Very different. My father's family, big storytellers. And I told my father, you need to write this stuff down. And he wrote it down, and it didn't resemble the story I had heard my entire life at all, because as he's writing, he's thinking, well, he needs to embellish here, or he needs to something here. And I'm like, tear that up and we'll just record you. Just tell the story. So when you're working with your events, like you work with nonprofits a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm all about nonprofits because I think our world is better because of nonprofits. They're doing all of the hard work.
Yes.
What kind of stories are they telling? The story about the nonprofit or a story about like one of the people who uses them?
Well, it depends. We try to get all angles of what the nonprofit does. What's the story? How did it start? But most importantly, who are your clients? Who are your stakeholders that are really benefiting from the work? And so we just recently did one with the Tennessee Innocence Project, and we met with the lawyers that work there and heard their stories. But also we met and talked to two gentlemen who had been in prison for a combined 75 years and had been exonerated because of the work of the Tennessee Innocence Project. So that kind of stories, what is the why of the organization? What is it that they do? And then what are the outcomes? Those are the kind of stories that we really want to hear.
That's diving in deep.
Yes. And, it's one thing to sit across from a man who's been in prison for 43 years and try to get him to tell his story in 20 minutes. It was really tough.
Because they've had so long to think about it and they probably have so much to say.
Exactly. I mean, one of the gentlemen said, when he started his story, he said, I've been thinking about you, this audience, for 20 years, because every night I sat in my cell and prayed to God that I just want someone to listen to my story.
Oh.
And then he had about 100 people sitting there waiting he said, I've known this audience and I've been with this audience for 20 years waiting for this. And then when you hear that kind of stuff, that's where the power of that moment really, that's what storytelling is all about.
Absolutely. I don't even need to say, why did you start this? After hearing that, well, why did you start this?
Well, I didn't start it. Leah Keys has started it. She was our founder. But she had the same feeling that she wanted to connect people in Memphis and have them tell their stories. So we started in the shadow of Crosstown before it was even what he is today. We started with Crosstown Arts, and we got people together to tell their stories. And then after a few years, I think around 2017, Leah decided she was ready to move on to other things, and I've just been trying to keep it going. But I was a storyteller at the first event, and I've been the sort of storytelling coach since the very beginning.
They saw promise in you.
Well, I would hope so.
So is every story really heavy, or is there a place for...
Well,
Time I blew the engine in my mother's Buick Remuda.
No, I mean, that's one of the things that's interesting is that most people kind of see, especially the slams, the 7-minute stories, most people want to tell a funny story. They want to make the audience laugh. But that's not always the case. I mean, I would say about half the stories are kind of funny and lighthearted, and others can do pretty deep and hard. So I think there's more, it's just more about the connection. The people want to connect more than they want to laugh or cry or something like that. But we try to give them all of that. And really, it's up to our storytellers for what they want to tell. We never know what they're going to tell. So it's a bit of a tightrope walk.
So it's a surprise for y'all too.
Yeah, I mean, we don't hear the stories beforehand on the slam night. It's not center stage, of course, we do, but yeah, we never know what's going to happen. And there's been some times where it's been, shocking, but most of the time it's PG-13.
But it just depends on who the people are that are coming.
Yes.
And you're just going to encounter, you don't know what you're going to encounter.
No.
Somebody might be red-haired and freckled-faced and have a really deep story to tell.
Yes.
And someone else may have just sailed through life and have easy stuff to do.
Yeah, we have a featured storyteller at one of our next events. So when we do the slams, when people are voting, we have one of our veteran storytellers to come back to kind of tell a story while we're tabulating who the winner is. And one of our big-time storytellers is Mitchell Grimm. He's going to be our featured storyteller on March 29th.
That's a great name.
Yes. And he kind of looks like a handyman. He kind of looks like just he wears a flannel shirt and jeans, and he's got glasses. And you think, well, what's this guy going to talk about? But he was a smuggler for the Medellin cartel back in the 80s. And so when he gets up there and says, I want to tell a story about that, you're like, wow. So you never know what you're going to get. And you can't judge a book by its cover. You got to hear the story. So it's It's an adventure.
Here's the great thing. You don't have to go anywhere. You were getting this in Memphis.
That's right. I mean, I think Memphis has the best storytellers. I've done
Definitely the South.
definitely. Well, I've been all over the South. I was a featured storyteller at the Florida Storytelling Festival. I've done events in Nashville, Chattanooga, Knoxville, Atlanta, Birmingham, and I just find that I'm biased, but I think we do the best here. I mean, just like when people talk about the music that comes from here, and they talk about that it's just like coming up out of the ground.
Yes.
And I feel it's the same thing. That's where our stories stem from. And
Think you're right.
that's why we are the best at it.
We're the best. We've got a couple of minutes left. Where do people need to go, do, see? How does
So
it
you
get
can
involved?
follow us on Facebook or Instagram. We just got on TikTok. I'm trying to figure that out. But our next event,
Call the Chinese.
yes, our next event, March 29th, we're going to be at Memphis Made Brewery. We're partnering with the Medical District Collaborative there. They've given us a grant for that event, so we're very excited to partner with them. And we're partnering with the University of Tennessee Health Science Center. If you are a student or a faculty member at the UT Health Science Center, you get in for free to show your ID. But that'll be one of our SAM events. And then April 26th, we'll be at Novel, so that'll be East Memphis. And so both of those, the theme for March 29th is midterms. April 26th is Independent Booksellers Day. And so we're celebrating with that. So our theme is I and Independent. So those are our events, but you can see all of our events on our webpage, spilletmemphis.org. And again, all of our socials.
And here's the thing. This has been going on thanks to Josh and some other dedicated people. It's going to keep going on. And it's going to be a fun time to go. I'm totally at the book thing.
Yeah.
Totally. That's my world right there. Josh Campbell with Spillit. Get out and enjoy your town because there are a lot of things going on and it'll just make you happy. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
We'll be back. Welcome back to Art Scene. Craig Thompson is with us. Craig Thompson is an artist, a writer, a videographer. What else? Muralist. And that's what we're here to talk about. Silly me. You, a muralist, and okay, here's what I find. That people who are really talented in one direction are usually talented in other directions as well. And you seem to be the proof of that.
Well, I'm not sure about that, but I've seen that in the music world. Like, I'm marveled when I see different, musician play 3 or 4 different instruments. To me, that's amazing. But then I like to illustrate, and I like to write, and I like to paint, and I like to draw, and I like to chalk. So to me, that's just natural. And I think it's the same thing with musicians. It's just a natural thing. And so those things are kind of related. And once you kind of get the feel of that, then the other things
You just want to do more. Yeah. So you've done several murals around town. We're going to talk about those, but talk about being a chalk artist. Because I love when they do the trompe l'oeil on the sidewalk. It looks like you're walking into a great big hole.
Right.
I'm just fascinated by that stuff.
Yeah, I don't do those, but it actually started during the pandemic. I was working from home like everybody was, and kind of taking daily walks, and honestly, just praying about what I could do to make things better, to contribute, at that point, because you just kind of felt locked down. And I started seeing, some of the little chalk things that the kids were doing. And I thought, man, I can draw. That's kind of how all this got started with what I do for a living, and do so much on the computer now. It'd be nice to kind of draw. So I thought, well, the first challenge was finding enough chalk because chalk was shortage at that time. But so I decided to do a mural. I'd just gotten back from Africa as the pandemic was shutting everything down, and had done a very in-depth safari and taken a lot of photos. So I thought, I'll draw animals, and we'll have a little zoo for our neighborhood. There's a lot of kids in my neighborhood. So I did that. I did each sidewalk panel. I did a different animal. Giraffe had 2 of them because they're taller. And then we invited the neighborhood to come look at it. We had Mempops come in the cove. I'm right across from a cove, and social distance everybody and treated everybody to a Mempop. And then you come to the zoo because the zoo was closed, And
You made a party in the middle of the pandemic.
yeah, we did a party. Yeah, party in the pandemic, and it was. I mean, the neighbors were out like 30 minutes before time. It's like everybody was so ready to do something, to be outside. And so that went over, obviously really well. And it was a lot of fun to do, and kind of rediscovered my love of drawing. So I started doing periodically chalk in the, around the neighborhood. I love Snoopy. It's the first thing I ever
Me
did.
too.
So I started drawing Snoopy
It's
cartoons.
the only thing I can draw.
Yeah. Oh, so yeah, that was fun. So I did some of those, and then I started drawing giant Snoopies, like 50-foot Snoopies in the cove. I have a cove across, and they were very generous and gave me the cove as a canvas. And so,
Did people then not drive around it?
yeah, they did drive around it. They were very polite.
Nice.
But I started ordering railroad chalk, like big boxes of the big sticks of railroad chalk. Comes in yellow, white, blue, and kind of a reddish rust. And so that was kind of my color palette. Well, Snoopy's black and white. So the challenge is, how do I do black? And one of my neighbors said, why don't you use charcoal? Couldn't find any black chalk. And sure enough, I just get charcoal briquettes and, and make the black with that. So
It was how Lincoln did that.
yeah. So that's how Snoopy came about. And so I started doing a bunch of those, and wound up doing one for St. Francis in their parking lot, where the doctors could see from like the 11th floor and 8th to 11th floor where they work. And the nurses did a kind of a Dr. Snoopy in Woodstock. That was the biggest one. I was probably 60 feet tall.
The one on Park?
Yeah, the one in Pop. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah. And then, just around, like, around the neighborhood and stuff like that. And it just kind of became a thing. I would do one every couple of weeks or so. And just really enjoyed it. It was just something, like I said, to try to cheer people up. And some of them had some messages. And then also Black Lives Matter was going on during that time downtown. I have a building downtown, owned a building at that time downtown. So I used the sidewalk in front of my building to come downtown and do, I would come once a week, check the mail, do all that stuff during the pandemic. And when they were doing the marches, they would go right by my building. So I did just some positive messages, kind of biblically based, about how to love each other and things like that, and what the Bible has to say about relationships and things. And so that was also very powerful. I had a lot of people come by and had some really good conversations as I was working on it. And that's the thing I had to get comfortable with, that I really was the biggest hurdle for me, is I like to draw things and make them perfect and then present them, right? Like with logos and things that I do. So to go out in public and just start drawing and pray it turns out, especially when you're working in scale, was just very challenging for me and took me out of my comfort zone. But I had so many great experiences of people coming by and being encouraging and talking, having conversations I never would have had otherwise. And so now I'm perfectly comfortable with it.
I wanted to ask you, how do you scale up? How do you?
Honestly, I'm not sure. I just start drawing. And
Adjust as you go?
yeah, now, like the St. Francis one, I got lucky. I drew it and I went up the elevator to the 11th floor, looked down. It's like all good. So now I'll just fill it in. But I start off with a sketch, like with the charcoal or with a white chalk, and outline Snoopy or whatever it is I'm drawing. And like in the cove, I'll get up on like a 12-foot ladder and look at it and make sure I feel like it looks good. And then, but some I don't even have the luxury of that, so I just do it. And then I have a friend that has a drone, and have him come by, and it's like, okay, let's do it with the drone. And
How did
Right.
they do it before drones?
Yeah.
How did they do the Nazca lines without drones?
Exactly.
Just-
Yeah. But for whatever reason, I've been able to draw at scale, and that's been, probably short things that I like to do big things, right? So, I just enjoy doing things large.
So how do you come up with your ideas about what to draw? Do you sketch it out ahead of time, or you just walk out there with a paintbrush or a piece of chalk?
I definitely sketch it out at that time. Like being a designer, I, tend to plan and use sketches before, like I go to the computer and do logos and things like that. Same thing with this. I kind of think, what I want the theme to be. And if it's a Snoopy, what pose do I want him in? And then I sketch it out so that I have something to work from, as I'm working.
So when someone hires you to do something, like you just did the Cordova Skating Center.
Right.
Okay, that's your latest mural. Do they tell you what they want and then you interpret it, or do you argue with them and tell them it's not what they want?
All of the above
Oh,
for
good.
the project. specifically for Cordova, they were great. They wanted to freshen up and really make it fun and lively. So they were a great client because their only thing was, we don't want characters like people, whatever. We want this fun. We want energy. We want movement. That's it. That's the only direction they gave me. They said, whatever you want to do. And so my first question was, okay, then you still do the fluorescent lights like I remember when I was a kid. They turn on the black lights, and oh yeah, we definitely still do the black light stuff. So we want some fluorescent paint. So that was kind of the challenge for me, is have it look good in regular light. Then also when the black lights come on, have it light up. And fluorescent paint's just, it's not as opaque, it's difficult to work with. So there were some challenges there. But I only gave him one design. I just felt the kind of a 70s, 80s feel with a lot of curves and energy, and I usually present multiple ideas to my clients, but I just felt good about this one, and they loved it on the spot. I did a big printout so they could see it, kind of at a little bit of scale. And so then we just went from there.
How did they come to you? Who there had the idea of, we're not just going to paint this wall red or turquoise, or we want something on it?
So Darla Dunn, one of the owners, they have this big wall at the end of this oval rink. There's this big, concrete block wall, and they just had their lettering on it, Cordova Skate Center. She's like, this is an opportunity to do something really cool. So she was the one that kind of spread this on, and she said, I prayed for a year to find somebody to do this. And she was talking with her accountant, who happens to be a friend of mine that I grew up in church with, and I had just done this mural 2 years ago at Bar Methodist Church. And she was going to go to the university or go, try to find some way to, get some art somewhere. And he said, no, you need to talk to my friend Craig first. So she called, and we met and just kind of hit it off and went from there.
Public works of art like that, especially if they're on the outside of a building, is there a lot of red tape to jump through to get it there? How long do you expect it to last? Chalk drawing naturally goes away with the weather, right?
Right.
But
I had to come to peace with that.
I wonder, do you go out and take pictures of it as the rain is taking it away?
Come take pictures and all that, so I'll get records of it. But I've had them last 12 days. St. Francis, that one lasted 12 days, and I've had them last less than 2 hours.
Oh, that would hurt.
It's Memphis, right?
No, that would hurt.
Yeah.
Okay, so
but yeah, so there's if it's private property, it's not a problem. Like the Bartlett Methodist mural, it faces Bartlett High School, and they wanted to use that as kind of a cool canvas. But it's their building, their property, and so there's nothing to permit, or you don't have to do anything. Cordova Skate Center was inside, and paint whatever we want in there. So I haven't really done one. At one point, I was talking to some folks in Collierville about doing one in a public space, and there was that issue that we need to get it approved by city council.
By 19 different people.
Yeah, but the ones I've done have been in private property or indoors. So
how do you get the surface ready for painting? Because I'm thinking most of it is probably cement or brick, right?
But yeah, I've done both. The Bartlett mural was brick, and the Cordova mural was cinder block. So it's basically just cleaning whatever's there and making sure that all that residue is off, and then coming in with a base coat. There's just base coats that you use at these Sherwin-Williams, and a couple of coats of that, just so you have a clean surface to work with.
And then how do you choose your colors? Like, what's your favorite color?
Well, black and blue.
It's not a color, and that's not a color. That's not a color.
Okay. Blue's probably my favorite. But I don't really go by that. Colors kind of down the line. It's like, what's the theme? What's the concept? And then that'll tell you what color it needs to be.
I see. So what's your style then? Do you have different styles? Do you feel like you can step out of the comfort zone?
Yeah, Cordova was definitely out of my comfort zone. I have a design firm. I do a lot of logos. So minimalism and trying to make things as simple and communicate as quickly as possible. That's kind of my whole focus all the time, right? And they want something just kind of cool and flowing, and well, that's not my normal style. But one of the things I try to do at my design firm is we don't have like a house style. We try to, whatever our clients need. If it's a commercial client, if it's most of ours are nonprofit, depending on the audience, and we try to design for them and for their audience. And that might be something retro, it might be something super modern, it might be something corporate. And so we try to work in all those styles.
That's what I like.
Yeah.
that you can go different places and bring in different kinds of art, because maybe someone hasn't been exposed to something, but they see your mural and they have. How does somebody get started in this other than like tagging the overheads on the interstate? I mean, don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that. Well, I mean, I'm a designer first, and you know, a part-time muralist. So there'd probably be folks who could answer that question better than I. I know there's Paint Memphis here where they get involved with a lot of up and coming muralists and things, and have projects for them. And there's grants available, you know, through the arts organization. So that's probably, you know, a great place to start. I have a friend, Jamon Bullock. He's a muralist, and he's done some of the stuff at the airport and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
So he's been a good, you know, kind of sounding board for me, because he does it all the time. I only do it occasionally. So like, I don't do a lot of spray. The mural I did at Bartlett Methodist, I had to paint this big sky and clouds. Well, I didn't want to do that by hand, so he helped teach me how to use spray can.
I love that you paint clouds. That's my favorite thing.
Nah, that was fun. I could have done that all day.
When I'm rich, I'm hiring you to paint clouds on the side of something.
There you go.
There's so much talent in Memphis. Right here in Memphis, you don't have to go outside of it. And when you are out driving around, start looking for the works of art that are out there, because you'll be amazed. And if you have any questions, Skittle Craig. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
A muralist, a chalkist. You a
Yeah,
whatever. Chalker?
Chalk artist. Yeah.
Get out and enjoy your city.
Friends of the Library helps to raise money for all 18 Memphis Public Library locations, their programs, and services. Donate as a one-time monthly or yearly contribution to help us continue to serve the approximately 2 million customers who enter Memphis Public Libraries annually.
The Memphis Public Libraries and the Memphis Library Foundation's Memphis Sound Connection is an online platform that showcases a vast collection of current local music for free. The Memphis Sound Connection looks to connect you with today's torchbearers of the Memphis Sound. If you are a musician in the Memphis area and have an album of at least 4 songs or 25 minutes, please consider submitting today. If the album is selected, an honorarium of $200 will be provided to the musician. Please visit the website or scan the QR code on the screen.
You're watching the Library Channel, a broadcast service of the Memphis Public Libraries and the City of Memphis.